And the greatest of these is love, or charity, as the Apostle Paul refers to it in the 13th chapter of 1 Corinthians. And as I read those words, my mind goes to the book of James. And James asks a question. He says, where do wars come from? In other words, why do we have war? And you might say, well, because somebody was aggressive toward another somebody, and so they started fighting over it. Well, the thing about it is that the person who became the aggressor made a choice. And they chose to become the aggressor, and there was a motivation behind that choice, and that choice was they wanted to take over somebody else's land, or they wanted to change somebody else's mind. They wanted to be able to have control over that other group of people, whether it be a country or a tribe or whatever it may be. They wanted the power, and they were willing to pick up arms and fight and even kill people to accomplish it. And James says this, he said, does not it come from the very lust that's in your heart? In other words, he said there's evil that's lurking in the heart of a man, and when that evil is followed through on, it will produce some very ugly things. And of course, in the whole life of humanity, the carnage of war is such an appalling thing when you think about all the people who have lost their lives because of war. Why? Because of choices. Choices were made. People decided that they wanted something that was not their own, and they were ready and willing to use force to go obtain it. And then the opposing side says, no, you're not. And then you have these terrible clashes in history that have caused such carnage of humanity. Well, I bring it back to the point that he says the greatest is love, and that love has to be so intense that it would make a choice to love unconditionally. And so we find the very pattern from heaven. Heaven teaches us about unconditional love. Unconditional love that can only be demonstrated to us in its full effectiveness by our Heavenly Father Himself, who, as is recorded in the Gospel of John, for God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in Him should not perish, but have everlasting life. To say that God chose to love humanity unconditionally, and then He gave us the choice to choose. And the choice that He would have us to choose is to love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy mind, and to love our neighbor as ourself. That is a choice, but it's a choice that God would lead us to make. This is Pastor Jack King with the gospel on the radio broadcast.